For today's AQA required practical, we are going to be making salts. What you require for this practical is some sulfuric acid. Here I have 1 molar sulfuric acid, some copper oxide. You will need a Bunsen burner, a tripod, a heat-proof mat, a gauze, two beakers, a stirring rod, spatula, conical flask, a funnel, filter paper, measuring cylinder, an evaporating dish, and some tongs. First things first, I'm going to put my goggles on. Then I'm going to measure 40 ml of 1 molar sulfuric acid into my measuring cylinder. And then I will pour it into my beaker. Now this sulfuric acid, I'm going to heat it over the Bunsen burner, because the warmer it is, the better it will react. So I put it over my Bunsen burner and I'll let it heat up. You don't want it to boil, you just want it to be warm enough so that it reacts with the copper oxide. Once the acid is warm enough, I'm going to use my tongs to take it off gently. Move the Bunsen burner to the side. Now in my beaker I'm going to put in some copper oxide with a spatula, a little bit at a time. And then using a stirring rod, I'm going to give it a mix. The colour should change from black to a blue. As you can see, the solution has now turned blue. I'm going to add a bit more copper oxide because I want the amount to be excess. So that means all the sulfuric acid has been used in the reaction. There's excess amount of copper oxide in here. It's still a little bit blue, but you can see the copper oxide at the bottom. What I'm going to do now with this solution is I'm going to filter it so that the excess copper oxide is kept in my filter paper. So I've got my funnel, my conical flask and my filter paper. I'm going to fold it up like so, and then open it up with 3 on one side, 1 on the other. Put it into my funnel, and then I'm going to filter the solution through my funnel. As you can see, the solution is blue and the excess amount of copper oxide at the bottom of my beaker. Filter it all through. Give it a few minutes. I now have my solution of copper sulfate. I'll pour it into the evaporating dish, and I'm going to put this over a hot water bath. So here I have my Bunsen burner and my beaker on top with some water which is going to boil, and I'll put my evaporating dish on top of it and let the water boil and heat up the copper sulfate and let the crystals form. So now what we have is copper oxide plus sulfuric acid, and we're going to get copper sulfate and water. So that's the word equation, and the chemical equation is CuO plus H2SO4 gives you CuSO4 plus H2O. As the water in the water bath boils, heating up the evaporating dish, you can see that the water is evaporating from the evaporating dish and there's some crystals being formed around the side of the dish. The water has all evaporated and now I'm left with some copper sulfate crystals. If I took my time, these crystals would have become larger, but this was a bit of a quick experiment, so it's a bit of a powdery type crystal. So I'm going to scrape it off my evaporating dish, just show you. What it looks like, and that is copper sulfate crystals.